Hey there, you guys. Welcome to the Holy Shed, which today is in London because I was blessed once again this morning to give the sermon at St Leonard's Church in Streatham, and it was all about the good life, I can tell you, and about James and John in the Gospels. You remember those two cheeky beggars who made a bid for seats at the top table in the kingdom with Jesus? Anyway, if you fancy having a listen, I'll be posting a link for that up once it becomes available. One of the other big highlights of this past week for me was leading an Enneagram workshop with a staff team from the Methodist Church. And we had such a great fun day together with a lovely bunch of people, and we had a lot of fun. And by the way, if you don't know what the Enneagram is, well, it's a system for understanding different kinds of personality styles or different life strategies. And I know some people shudder at the idea of these kinds of things because, as they say, they don't want to be placed in a box. Well, the way I see it is the Enneagram isn't about putting me into a box. It's about showing me the box that I'm already in and how I might transcend it and not be limited by it. And as I mentioned last week, I'm going to be leading 2 Enneagram workshops online in the Holy Shed before the end of the year, and I'll tell you a bit more about that at the end. So enough said about that for now. And as you know, it's October, and in a couple of weeks' time we'll be in the church season of remembrance with things like Halloween and All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, and then Remembrance Sunday a little bit later too. And all those things occur round about the end of October, the beginning of November. So like last year, I'm going to invite you to send in to me names of loved ones who you'd like to remember or have remembered in the shed at our All Souls session. And I'll include them in some way into what we do in that particular session. So again, more of that in a little bit. But in the light of this this period that we're heading into, I'm going to be doing a couple of sheds focused on what I suppose you might say death-related issues, really. And that's going to be starting with what I'm going to say to you right now this week. Because autumn, of course, is a season when nature dies, or at least goes to sleep. So I want to begin today with a lovely poem by Edward Hayes, who was a Catholic priest but a wonderful poet and writer in general. And this is a piece that he wrote which is called an autumn psalm of fearlessness. And what I'm going to suggest is that if you have a candle ready and you want to light a candle, why not light it now as we look at this poem and as I read it to you, okay? Autumn Psalm of Fearlessness. I am surrounded by a peaceful ebbing as creation bows to the mystery of life. All that grows and lives must give up life. Yet it does not really die. As plants surrender their life, bending, brown and wrinkled, and yellow leaves of trees float to the lawn like parachute troops, they do so in a sea of serenity. I hear no fearful cries from creation, no screams of terror as death daily devours once green and growing life. Peaceful and calm is autumn's swan song, for she understands that hidden in winter's death grip is spring's open-handed, full-brimmed breath of life. It is not a death rattle that sounds over fields and backyard fences. Rather, I hear a lullaby, softly swaying upon the autumn wind. Sleep in peace, all that lives. Slumber secure, all that is dying. For in every fall there is the rise, whose sister's name is spring. It's beautiful, isn't it? Well, it's strange, actually, that in Enneagram terms, if you don't mind me using this framework, in Enneagram terms, I'm what we call a type 7, which is often labelled the epicure, which means a lover of pleasure. So That's my natural kind of default strategy in life, if you like, to keep life pleasurable, which works well for you, really, doesn't it? And it's about wanting to keep life upbeat and positive. I'm an optimist, a glass full and running over kind of guy. Even as a child, I was always described as having a summary disposition. So here's the question. Given that summary disposition, why is it that I love autumn so much? I often say autumn is my favourite season, which surprises people really because, they think of autumn as something that's more downbeat. And on the same tack, I wonder why it is that I've become attracted more and more as life's gone on. Actually, I've become attracted to the music of people like Leonard Cohen, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Amy Winehouse, Joni Mitchell, and so many more that I could mention. I mean, they're all really classic melancholics, Enneagram type 4s, actually. So why are some of my best friends type 4s, melancholics? Do you know, I think, and I've pondered this quite often, I think it's because these kind of people help me to get in touch with my emotions at a deeper level. Emotions that I might otherwise, sit on top of or drown out with louder, more joyful feelings. In an interview some time back that I gave, somebody asked me how I deal with the darker bits of life. And, without even a moment's hesitation, I just said, turn the music up. And it's kind of a metaphor, really. And as life goes on, as I say, I've come to realize that this is not really the best thing to do. That when I metaphorically turn the music up or wind up the feel-good factor, what I'm really doing is blocking the life force within me. Because if I want to live all of my life, if I want to live my life fully, then I do have to live every bit of it, not just the happy bits, but also the challenging, difficult, darker bits of life too. So yes, I think it's the same with autumn. It's like, for me, it's like annual therapy, that helps me connect with some deeper, moodier, more melancholic sides to me. So maybe before I go any further, I'd just like to flag something up really, because I think we need to acknowledge straight away that there are folk right now here in the shed who don't live in this autumn clime of the northern hemisphere. You live down south in the southern hemisphere where spring is just about to sort of bloom and jump up. And so, hey, good on you guys. I wish I was there with you. But I'm sure you'll still be able to, connect with this autumn stuff. And the whole point is that there's autumn in nature, in the natural world, but there's also autumn in the soul too, which can happen, hey, any time of year. So where was I? Yeah, I know. Autumn works for me therapeutically. It's like annual therapy, helping me to connect with stuff. Most of all, of course, autumn is a time of things dying or at least falling asleep. And the church calendar, as I said earlier, mirrors this, in the northern hemisphere anyway, with things like All Saints and All Souls. It's a season of confronting, death and loss and remembrance. So here's a memory. 11 years ago, this month, actually almost, I think it possibly was this week actually, but 11 years ago, out of the blue, I ended up in a hospital bed. And throughout my life, I've been very, very lucky. Before this, I'd only actually stayed in hospital once before, which was for some dental surgery. So out of the blue, there I was 11 years ago, lying on a hospital bed, having suffered a small heart attack. And it was then I discovered how difficult people find it to use those words, heart attack. It's a bit like cancer. People say the C word or something. It's a bit like that with heart attacks. Lots of cards and messages that I got, made references to things like me being unwell or having had a scare. And one of them even said, "Sorry you've been under the weather lately." I mean, wow, under the weather. Doctors, of course, were a bit less tactful about it. "You've had a heart attack," the doctor told me. And you know what? It was a bloody shock. It really was. Facing my mortality, having something happen that I had no control over and couldn't change at all. It was about feeling fragile, I guess, vulnerable. And that's a big thing about this season of autumn. It's about fragility, impermanence, mortality. It's when death daily devours once green and growing life, as the poem said at the beginning. Autumn is a season of magnificent beauty. This is Highgate Woods, where we've walked many, many times. It's a season of magnificent beauty, but it's also a season of decline, The days grow shorter, the light starts to dim very often, and summer's abundance decays into winter's death grip. But you know what? Faced with this inevitable winter every year, what does nature do? What does it do in autumn? Well, it scatters the seeds that will bring the old earth back to life again in the spring. And as you can see, just as a little snapshot of it in this picture, nature scatters them with utterly preposterous generosity, gay abandon, we used to say. If you've visited the woods lately, you'll know what I mean. The woodland floor is, in many cases, like this. It's just covered with acorns, with hazelnuts, with conkers, with all these other sort of seeds that fall from the tree to the ground. The abundance of nature's seeding in autumn is, well, it's frankly ludicrous, but also absolutely fabulous. And yet, it's easy to overlook that this is actually what's happening, that seeds are being planted. It's easy to forget that it's a time of hope, of regeneration, when nature is, planning for the future. Instead, our minds very easily focus on the fact that summer's gone, that things are turning brown, that everything's starting to die off. And that, is a cause of great melancholy for many people. The wheel of nature is turning away from the season that we love so much and we look forward to, of summertime and holidays and sunny days and, take your clothes off. Well, some of them, all that kind of thing. So we miss the fact that what's going on here right now is basically mass impregnation of nature. It's going on everywhere. The seeds are being sown. The autumn colours, are just utterly amazing, aren't they? Especially when the sun breaks through. There's nothing like it, is there? A sunny day in autumn with all the leaves still there but having changed colour. But even this glorious cascade of colour is always tinged with melancholy, a sense of impending loss that's only highlighted really by the beauty of all that's going on round about us. So we easily focus, as I say, on the prospect of death more than on the hope of new life. And this appearance of autumn is also a metaphor, a mirror of the process that takes place within us. There's a sort of outside autumn, there's an inside autumn, there's an outside cycle of nature, there's an inside cycle of life. Our lives are seasonal, just as nature is seasonal, because basically we're part of nature, aren't we? In the autumnal events of our lives, the times when, things seem to be withering instead of flourishing, it's easy to become fixated on surface appearances, concentrating on, what seems to be going wrong in our lives, how things are winding down, perhaps a decline of opportunity that we once had, a loss of youth, It's taken me a bloody long time in life to realise that I'm I'm not a teenager anymore, and I'm still actually in denial about it. Um, Loss of work. That's can be a devastating thing when our job disappears, or a relationship is in trouble and we fear the worst, or a relationship that we hoped would turn out, which didn't in the end. Forced retirement, or just one of life's umpteen disappointments. It's built into life that disappointment is just like leaves falling every year. But deeper reflection on these events may reveal that there are other possibilities that are about to appear, things which are being seeded now, which will bear fruit in a season that seems a long way off, but it's coming. In retrospect, I can see positive things that I didn't discern back in the day, like, how the job didn't turn out for me, the job that I applied for in 1996 that would have taken me down a very different route. And the fact that the road was blocked there, that I didn't get that job, led me to becoming vicar at St. Luke's, and to 19 very, very fruitful years in my life. I failed to discern at the time how a heart attack would lead to a much better quality of life because of changes that I would make. How an enforced retirement that at the time, I've told you this before, made me so livid and angry because it just seemed so stupid. And that together with a lockdown, which for a type 7 person like me is just about living hell. But these things, I couldn't see it at the time, led to this, the Holy Shed. On the surface, these things made me feel like life was diminishing, the opportunities were being missed, but silently and lavishly, those seeds were falling into the ground. The seeds of a new life were being sown. And it'd be nice if you could see them straight away, and that would make things a whole lot easier. But the process of nature teaches us about the process of life, that it takes time, but unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth, Jesus said, and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. So, it's hard, but it's essential to try to glimpse the fact that something else is happening when we think that everything is going wrong. And the hopeful vision that new life is hidden within dying is magnified 1,000,000 times by the glorious, colourful pageant of autumn. It's kind of like, it's spelled out clear and plain before us. It's as if we're living in a life workshop when the seasons change. They're telling us that things don't always stay the same. I mean, what artist would have thought of painting a season of dying and melancholy with such brilliant colours if nature hadn't done it first? I'll never forget the pain of my mother's death, which was back in 1993, a long time ago now. See the likeness? Lovely, lovely woman. Violet, her name. Pat and I were with her in hospital, in the hours before she died. But we went home to feed the kids. And once we got home, wouldn't you know it, we received the call that said that she had just passed away. It's as if she wanted to save us from that moment. And I've known that happen quite often in families and lives at this time. On returning to the hospital, coming back to her bedside, which we did straight away, I held her hand, which was still warm, just. And sitting there, holding her hand, and pondering the treasure trove of warmth and care and humour housed in that little fragile body, that little scouse saint, the memories, the stories she could tell, stories that she told over and over, and we loved to hear them every single time. But there was a beauty to her death too. I mean, her restful appearance lying there in that bed assured me somehow that this body was itself just a seed falling into the ground, that somewhere beyond my vision buds were appearing, a new life was sprouting. Violet Tomlinson was re-emerging somehow in some form that I know nothing about. She certainly reappeared in the lives of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren who she never saw, umpteen of them here in the Britain and also in Canada. You know, I love the comment of Thomas Merton that there is in all visible things a hidden wholeness. Just think about that for a minute. He said there is in all visible things a hidden wholeness. It's there in nature, you know, in full view, but hidden. These things are not opposites, you know, night and day, light and dark, death and life, falling and rising. They're not opposites. They live together in that hidden wholeness in everything. Life is paradox, and that's why I come back to this point over and over and over again, that faith is absolutely intrinsically about paradox. And those people who want to get rid of the paradox and just live with wonderful so-called certainties are basically living in cloud cuckoo land, because life at every level is paradox. So we need to ask ourselves, why are we afraid of that? Why are we afraid of darkness, of the challenging bits of life? If we demand light around the clock, well, you know what you get. The only result can be artificial light, which is, you know, glaring and graceless. And beyond its borders, there's a darkness that grows even more frightening as we try to stave it off. Autumn reminds us that many little daily dyings are basically necessary precursors to something else, to new life, to new possibilities, new opportunities. But they do remind us of our fragility, of our vulnerability, of our earthiness. I love that bit, you know, where Julian of Norwich has the vision of a hazelnut, you know, where she's holding the hazelnut in her hand. And she says, she wrote this, she said, "In this vision, he showed me a little thing the size of a hazelnut, and it was round as a ball. I looked at it with the eyes of my understanding and thought, what may this be? And it was generally answered thus, it is all that is made. Everything's there. I marvelled how it might last, for it seemed it might suddenly have sunk into nothing because of its littleness. And I was answered in my understanding, it lasts and ever shall, because God loves it." Isn't that beautiful? And indeed, isn't the icon beautiful, which is another one of Robert Lentz's? We looked at the one of Francis and the Sultan last week. This is another one. She famously lived in her little cell with a cat. Beautiful image. Lovely, lovely words, so profound. So let's move on to a prayer. God of autumn sun, of cloud and rain, of misty mornings, crisp blue skies, God of brown wrinkled leaves, ground covered in seeds, of blackbirds still singing as night time descends, God of thick woolly jumpers, wellies and scarves, of buttered toast, jam and pots of hot tea, God of bonfires, pumpkins, of candles ablaze, of dogs chasing squirrels we pray will survive, God of memories so precious, still warm in our hearts, of loved ones departed yet present within, God of things that we've lost yet somehow still have, of hope burning bright when we barely can see. Our souls are so grateful to be here, alive, to share in this pageant of season and change, to know that in all which passes or dies lives a shout of great joy awaiting its time. Amen. So, do you know, in many ways, I've found this year has been hardest of all to let go of summer, because really we didn't get an awful lot, did we? Well, not in August, not round here anyway. And the transition to autumn I found a little bit harder, but now that it's gone cooler and trees have gone browner and things are changing, I'm kind of warming into it and sensing that kind of melancholy that I've come to embrace as a friend, instead of trying to reject it and push it away and turn the music up and make everything brighter and happier. So that's me, and I wonder about you. Anyway, shall we toast it all? I think we will. So if you've got a drink, please take hold of it now. And don't worry, there is some water in the bottom of this, so it's not all whiskey, for those who are concerned. So, dear friends, this is a toast to seasons, to change, to new possibilities when we think that everything has disappeared and gone. Here's to autumn, to brilliant colours, to this magnificent, wasteful seeding of this season of the year. It's a toast to remembering, to reconnecting with the past, with folk that we've lost along the way. To remember is to remember, to put together again. So here's to remembering. Here's to future hopes, to that great shout of joy in each of us waiting to be born. Hey guys, to life, l'chaim. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Now, if you like the Holy Shed, you like what we're doing, you are able to support us through this coffee site, and the link to coffee is always at the top of the Holy Shed Facebook page posts. Head of the post, you'll find it there. But if you're looking for it, that's the link just below there. And thank you so much to those of you who do support us. People who support us monthly, by the way, I don't get a notification always about that, so I don't always send out a thank you in the way that I do to one-offs, but please receive our heartfelt thanks, whether you're regular or irregular or occasional or stop digging, Dave. So I think that what I wanted to just talk about a little bit more is a couple of notices. This whole Enneagram thing, okay? So here's the ad for it. It's on the 13th of November. There's going to be another one on December the 4th, which will be a more advanced one. So that's for people who already, are familiar with the Enneagram and want to go a little bit deeper. This will be a very fun day, I can assure you. Even though it's on Zoom, we'll have a great time together. And it's at a special shed price here. If you go looking out there for workshops, you find you can pay a heck of a lot more than this. So this is a shed price. But if you can't afford it, I still want you to be able to come, okay? And so you can pay whatever you wish. If you can't afford it, then just let me know, and we'll sort something out. So the way that you can book for this, and you can book it now, is by going to the coffee site and go to the shop. And actually, there's a direct link to the shop. There's a button for that right at the top of the Holy Shed Facebook page, up at the banner at the top, But it's very easy. If you just go to the coffee site, you'll see the shop. And you'll see this ad, and you can pay for it there. And I've put a little note that you'll get afterwards, which says, please email me at this email address, which you can see here, theholyshed@gmail.com, so that we can send you the link, and also I'll send you a questionnaire and some other stuff beforehand. Okay? If you've got any inquiries, you can get in touch with me in the usual ways or through that email address. Okay, and I think the only other thing I wanted to mention again was this thing about All Souls Day. If you would like some names to be flagged up in some way on in our service or in our session on All Souls, then please send me names. You can do that again through that same email address or message me in Facebook, whatever, and we'll work something out so that we can celebrate the lives and remember these loved ones. All right, well, I think we're just about there, really. Let's have a blessing, should we? The blessing of God, the eternal goodwill of God, the shalom and salam of God, the wildness and warmth of God be among us and between us, now and always. Amen. So we're going to finish in a moment with a piece of music. It's from our lovely friends Nemo and the Empty Hands Music People, and it is a song called Planting Seeds, so quite relevant, and they're just so good at this kind of thing. So I'll play that in a moment. Meanwhile, thanks for being with me. I hope that you have a wonderful week this week. I will see you next Sunday here in the shed. Meanwhile, look after yourselves. Be kind to people around you. Doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves. Stay human, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
I spent a long time running, I never knew then what I know now. That the fruits, they always come in, but you can't go around just knocking them down. It takes a long time to show in. We plant the seeds then, and we look at them now. But the roots are always growing, no matter if I'm there or never around.
Whatever grows will grow, whatever dies will die, whatever works will work, whatever flies will fly, whatever fails will fail, what's meant to soar will soar. I am planting seeds, nothing
It's like
more.
your whole life you've been training for this moment, and when the time comes you just disown it, meaning you just surrender, don't control it. Not interested in the clay pots and molding, or sitting next to the path trying to unfold it, or waiting for the fruits to fall down toward you. Let it go and now you're flowing, feeling quite gorgeous, so you take steps away instead of towards it. What a rush, feeling freedom with nothing to hold. We've been taught that what you touch will always turn to gold, and now we're learning when we let it go it overflows, with no credit to take, cause no credit is home. A higher power working deeper where the seeds are sowed, and when the seeds are true, then they're seeds of gold. But the real gold is joy when life starts to flow, and when it does, you just smile cause now you know. I spent a long time running, I never knew then what I know now. That the fruits, they always come in, but you can't go around just knocking them down. It takes a long time to show in. We plant the seeds then, and we look at them now. But the roots are always growing, no matter if I'm there or never around.
Whatever grows will grow, whatever dies will die, whatever works will work, whatever flies will fly, whatever fails will fail, what's meant to soar will soar. I am planting seeds, whatever grows will grow,
When it grows, it grows.
whatever dies will
And when it dies, it dies. Come on.
Works will
If it works, it works.
whatever flies will
Let it fly, let it
whatever
fly.
fails will fail.
When it fails, it
What's meant
fails.
to soar will soar.
when it soars, it soars.
I am planting seeds. Whatever grows will grow.
Let it grow, let it
whatever
grow.
dies will
When
die.
it dies, it dies.
Whatever works will
And when it works, it works.
whatever flies
Yeah.
will fly.
Let it fly, let it
whatever
fly.
fails will fail.
fails, it
What's
fails.
meant to soar will soar.
No, when you smile, it just helps someone to know that you're cared about and that you love them.